Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular board meeting for the trustees of the Spring Independent School District. We will officially call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, January 15th, 2019. Board trustees present are Winfred Adams Jr., Chris Bell, Deborah Jensen, Justine Durant, Jana Gonzalez, Dawn Davis, and myself, Rhonda Newhouse. I would like to ask everyone to turn off or silence your cell phones or any electronic devices that you have at this time, please. Thank you. Tonight, our presentation of the colors will be given to us, information given to us by Captain Dawn Davis.
Dr. Watson, my colleague on the school board, good evening. Tonight, President of Colors will be led by Spring Navy JROTC. The Spring Navy JROTC program is the largest Navy program in Texas and the fifth largest in the United States. Since 2009, the graduate seniors from the Spring Navy JROTC program have been awarded over $45 million in education benefits. This program the program is currently working on a scholarship for Cadet Emily Boyer worth more than almost $200,000. Commanding the color guard and carrying the U.S. flag is Cadet Chase Berkeley. Carrying the Texas flag is Master Chief Jennifer Tisdale. United States Rifle Guard is Cadet Petty Officer 3rd Class Andre Torres. The Texas Rifle is carried by Lieutenant Walker Blakely. Leading the players tonight is Cadet Commander Emory Boyer and Cadet Petty Officer Mackenzie Abbott. The Spring Navy Officer program is under direction of Chief James Boyer, Master Chief Mark Clark, Senior Chief Joseph Reynolds, Gunnery Sergeant Ulrich Goodrich, and Chief Martin Horner. At this time, everyone please rise for the pledge, and once the pledge is completed, please remain standing. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to ask if you will quietly observe a moment of silence in your own way. Thank you. You may be seated.
Good evening, Madam President, our esteemed trustees, and Dr. Watson. January is Board Appreciation Month throughout the state of Texas. This evening, we have a representative from Commissioner R. Jack Cagle's office who will present a proclamation to recognize our Spring Independent School District Board of Trustees.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank y'all for having us out, Precinct 4. We've really enjoyed coming out to all the school districts, especially Spring. I know a lot of your faces. I get to do a lot of work with you guys in many different ways, but I've got an education background, so I really honor what y'all guys do and what y'all are putting forward. So it's an honor for me. Harris County Precinct 4 and the Honorable R. Jack Cagle hereby recognizes all of the board for serving as trustees for the Spring Independent School District. As Precinct 4 Commissioner of Harris County, Texas, and on behalf of the citizens of Harris County, we offer our sincere gratitude for the commitment to excellence in education and outstanding leadership you provide within Spring Independent School District. Your hard work and dedication have made a significant impact on the lives of the children, family, and the fellow educators in our community. Therefore, I hereby proclaim the month of January 2019 as School Board Recognition Month. R. Jack Cagle. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
At this time, I would ask our entire audience to join us in honoring our Spring ISD School Board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you to our audience. And Mr. Reed, please give our thanks to Jack Cagle as well, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item tonight is superintendent's remarks. So at this time, I would like to recognize our superintendent, Dr. Rodney Watson.
Thank you, President Newhouse and other trustees and guests in the audience. Once again, we would like to say a very thank you to you all for all the hard work that you all continue to do. We know that the role that you all do is truly a volunteer, and I don't know if everyone in the audience knows that they volunteer and give their times, and it's not just volunteering and going to events, but they go to governance training. They actually governance the district and really pay attention to the finances of the district. They have to go to trainings and keep certain hours in terms of the number of training hours that they get on a yearly basis. And they do all of that responsibility free of charge as a volunteer. So once again, thank you all so much for all of your hard work, your leadership. We know that now that we're in our legislative session, that your leadership is just as, or if more important now, than ever. So once again, thank you for your advocacy on behalf of the staff, students, and parents of Spring ISD. As you know, we have posted our calendar options on our survey, on the website for a survey. We want to encourage everyone in the audience as well as the board to go through and to look at our calendars. You'll notice that both of them have a planned start day of August the 14th and short calendar breaks for campus-based staff throughout the year. One of the things that we're doing differently this year is we're using our District of Innovation status to be very innovative in our calendar this year. So please look at both options. We are going to be coming back to you in February for a vote. The survey is open and has been open and will close on Friday, January the 18th. And so this gives our students, our parents, our community, our staff an opportunity to get on and look at the survey. Based on that feedback, once again, we'll bring that back to you in February for a vote. On the topic of surveys, we are now actually in our 4th annual school quality survey. As you know, we actually have 2 surveys, our employee engagement survey and our school quality survey. This survey opened on Monday and is focused on getting feedback from all of our families as well as staff and secondary students about their perceptions regarding our schools. All campus-based staff received an invitation to participate in the survey and to give us input about their respective campuses. Secondary students and all of our parents were also invited to participate. If you remember last year, we reached our highest level of participation since the launch of our survey in 2015-16. So of course, it's our goal this year to achieve even higher levels than we have in previous years. Once again, it's open until the end of the month, and we're planning to share our results with everyone at our May meeting. If any of you all, like myself, that came up with New Year's resolutions, a lot of times we're talking about health. We do have an opportunity for you all to participate in our annual fun run and wellness fair. One of the things that we want you to know is that our registration is now open for the annual fun run, which will take place on Saturday, March 23rd at 8 o'clock a.m. Those of you all that came out last year know that we had hundreds of people out participating, and they were very festive with our shirts on, and some of them had extra decorations on their costumes as well. We are very excited about this event. Last year, we were able to raise over $10,000 for student scholarships. We're hoping to get even more participation this year and raise even more money, so please take a moment to go onto our website, www.springisd, and register for our annual fun run. This does conclude my announcements for today. Thank you all very much. And once again, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. Parents, let me ask you, please take time and look at the survey. Your board reviews the results of that survey. So the survey that he just mentioned to you, we're asking our students, community, and parents to complete that survey. The board represents you, so we want to know what your pleasure is, and we find that out by your comments that you make on the survey that is given. No names are on the surveys whatsoever, so we don't know who it's coming from. So feel free to speak your thoughts on Spring ISD. We can only get better with your help and support. So I ask that you please complete that survey for us. Do we have any other board members who'd like to make comments?
Well, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Watson, who was inducted as the new president of the Northwest Chamber of Commerce. I am looking forward to how your role helps us connect better with the community, and also to be sure that our students have a place to thrive and have jobs and families in the future.
Madam President, and to our community and our audience, I'd like to just announce about a scholarship that was given to 3 of our students at Westfield High School. Let's take a few minutes to talk about this year's selection. We had 40 students to apply from our surrounding districts, and 3 students from Westfield. We only get 7 scholarships. My fraternity only gets 7, and 3 of our students from Westfield became candidates for those scholarships. And the names are Jeffrey Eagle, Cartrevis Green, and Armand West. So congratulations, they will be receiving the Zida Atlanta Alphabet David Keating Scholarship. And this year they will be receiving a scholarship at our Risen Convention. So I'll be looking for my colleagues, to attend the banquet, be at the table with me to receive the scholarships. Thank you. I'm inviting you all.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, trustees. We will now continue with tonight's agenda. Our next item is our Points of Pride Award, which we're excited about. At this time, I'd like to recognize our Chief Communications Officer, Tiffany Dunn Oldfield.
Good evening, President Newhouse, Dr. Watson, and members of the board. With the kickoff of 2019, I'd like to take just a quick moment to remind everyone here with us this evening is what a point of pride is, because we have a very special point of pride this evening. So as a reminder, points of pride are reserved exclusively for students and staff that achieve the highest levels of achievement, meaning state or national recognitions. They are not given to district level recognitions or even region or even city level recognitions. And just as a reminder, the points of pride were established by you, our board, more than a decade ago, and they are very special. This evening is our first point of pride for 2019. And at this time, I would like to call up Marcus Banks, a Dekaney High School senior who represented both Dekaney and Spring ISD at the All-American Bowl in San Antonio, Texas. Come on up here. I'm also going to invite the board down to the horseshoe, and I'd like to invite Marcus's mother and his sister up to stand beside him if they'd like to come, because I was the mother of a student athlete, and I know that without mom and parent and even sibling support, it's very hard to achieve the levels that Marcus has achieved. And I want a couple more people I'm going to invite up to the left side here. I'm going to invite up Coach Anthony Williams from Dekaney High School, as well as Principal Reynolds. So I'm not going to say much tonight because I want to pass the floor over to Coach Williams, who knows so much about our wonderful student athlete, Marcus. But one thing is that I just want to talk about how exclusive the invitation to participate in the All-American Bowl. And I always like to bring data, and I like to talk about how exclusive our awards are. But there are 1 million high school players in the U.S., and only 100 high school players are selected to participate in the All-American Bowl. So the pride that we need to have as a district that one of our student athletes was selected to participate is enormous. And I'd like to allow Coach Williams to tell you a little bit more about Marcus.
Good evening. The definition of an all-star is someone that has perfected their craft, but at a high level. And before I can talk about him as an all-star, as an athlete, I have to let you know he's an all-star academic student as well. My Marcus' core GPA is a 3.5, and I think that goes along with the integrity and the character that he brought to the football field. He's in the top 10% of his class. He's in the top 10% of attendance at our school, and his standards are worthy of emulation for all the young men that we encounter every day. And he has set forth and built a bridge for other kids to follow. Football, he's a remarkable athlete. But more than anything, he's an humble child. He's the first one at practice. He's the last one to leave. He's an all-star in the locker room. He sets the standard of what we want a Spring ISD athlete to be like. I've been knowing this young man since he was, 5th grade? And I actually was a part of his mom's and dad's wedding, and I heard him speak then, and not knowing then, I went to his dad, and I was like, man, you got an intelligent son. And he has been an all-star since then. We're going to miss him, but more than missing him as an athlete, we're going to miss him being around as a person and setting the standard of what we expect from our student athletes day in and day out. He made it a point to be here and to be in this district. I need to say that. His dad worked in this district, but he had every opportunity to leave Spring ISD, go to IMG, what a lot of kids do, but he made it a point to show people around the nation that we're building men here in Spring ISD, and that he's going to set the standard. And we're going to continue to follow the role that he's left for our young men that we deal with. And it's just a blessing to coach a kid like this, because, the way you see this young man dressed now, this is his game day attire on Friday. He's going to come sharp. He's going to come ready to play. But more than anything, he's going to come to encourage and uplift the other kids. So I want to say to him that it was a pleasure coaching him, that I love him, and that as a district, we're going to back him. But more than anything, keep God first, which I know you will, and stay humble, and, keep Spring ISD in your prayers, and Let's move forward, brother.
I just want to say I appreciate y'all for having me here. It was an amazing honor. I was really looking forward to coming here, and it means a lot to have me here today.
Board, I had the opportunity, thanks to Coach Williams, to attend the preseason all-area football banquet where athletes from throughout the Houston area were presented. And of course, I had the opportunity to sit next to Marcus's mom. So as we sat together, I learned quite a bit about this young man, his history, his background. And I knew then, Coach Williams, we were going to have an outstanding athlete this year. So when they announced him on the All-American team, I told my husband, we got to get home for that game during the holidays. I got to see Marcus play in the Alamo Dome because I want to know who he's going to announce. I had read in the paper that that was his big moment. And I think I understand why I see the colors that I see tonight. Because if I'm correct, Marcus, University of Alabama, Crimson Tide. So on behalf of the Spring Independent School District Board of Trustees, it gives me great pleasure to present this Points of Pride Award to you and your mom.
You're going to walk the horse and shake off the horse and your mom and as well. It's our tradition of walking the horse.
Congratulations, sir. We're proud of you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, I've been watching you guys online.
Yes, we've been following you. Congratulations. We're proud of you.
Congratulations, Coach.
Congratulations. All right, Coach.
All right, great job.
Selected out of 100 out of 1 million. How many people actually get a scholarship to go to Alabama to play? They might get 20 scholarships.
I'm not sure where the foundation.
Alabama, right.
So thank you so much. That concludes the Point of Pride section of the program this evening.
Madam President, before we move on, I'd like to ask for a point of privilege.
Please, go right ahead.
Because we were remorsed in not mentioning our PVA event. We had a 2-night activity where all of our schools came together, all of our choirs, all of our bands, all of our dance teams. It was absolutely amazing. I'm actually going to yield to Dr. Watson to give more detail and specifics around it, but I think it's something we should discuss tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you once again to all of our PVA staff. Dr. Clark, if you could stand and be recognized as well. Let's give him a round of applause. Those of you all that had an opportunity to come out, it was a really nice event. One of the first ever in spring, and not a lot of districts do this, where we have all of our high school and our middle school PVA groups all come together and do a joint performance, and it was absolutely remarkable. That's the first of many to come. We really want to get more community participation for the amount of work that our kids did in coming together, and the sound, the acting, all of the arts working together. There's going to be a spring performance, but we really want our community to come out and see how awesome our PVA department is. So once again, thank you all so much, and we'll make sure we get a lot of communication out.
And I'm not done. I was so excited about this event, and as we looked at the middle schools that performed together, that were feeding into our high schools, I said, that's our Springer Westfield Choir 4 years from now when you see those kids. And what it helped to do was to build Spring, not separate, but together as one. I looked at the kids had an opportunity to meet and get to know one another before they get to high school. That's one of the advantages. I know my daughter said 9th grade is kind of hard because it's still kind of cliquish from the middle school, and it takes a while before those kids gel together as one, and this activity and this event helps to do that. Also sitting behind me were the booster clubs, PTO and booster club parents that were chatting with one another from the different schools. And that starts to build, relationships as well. I know when I got to Westfield, I was the Clawton PTO, and we had the Wells PTO mom, and, we all had to gel together as one, and that actually helps to build relationships, not just with our students, but with our parents. And so it's a fantastic event. If you weren't there, you missed it. Make sure you don't miss it next year.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. But I think she forgot to mention one of the highlights of both nights. We had the honor of having the first night all of our choirs together to come and perform. And our choir had a special director of the choir. So we want to give a big round of applause and hats off to Dr. Watson for being the conductor, and Mr. All for the choir. He did a fantastic job. Thank you, Dr. Watson. And he turned around and did it on, we knew he was special with the band. We have seen him play instruments, his saxophone with the band. But he also got up and conducted the band the next night. So we are very pleased to have Dr. Watson as a musical, what do we call him? Prodigy.
He likes that.
Mentor for our districts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will continue. Next is our recognition of the Spring ISD Education Foundation Grant Express Awards. So at this time, I would like to invite members of the Education Foundation to come forward to make their presentation.
As they come forward, Madam President, we want the audience to know that our Spring ISD Education Foundation is part of our village, because it does take a village for us to do all we do for our teachers and our students. They provide innovative programs. They fund those programs or initiatives that are proposed by our teachers, campuses, or departments. And so tonight, they are here to recognize 9 campuses that received over $45,000 in grants this past December. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our foundation and its president, Ken Grace.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Dr. Watson, President Newhouse, and other board members, I'd like to congratulate you guys as well on this being Board Member Appreciation Month. The Spring ISD Education Foundation is dedicated to the support of the Spring the Spring Independent School District and its mission for preparing students for success in college, career, and life by providing a strong educational foundation. Established in 1992, we are a 501c3 not-for-profit organization that's governed by a volunteer board of directors that include local businesses, industry, education, and community leaders. The foundation works with the superintendent, businesses, community leaders throughout the greater Houston area to raise funds for the district and provide support to teachers and students and to promote the district's mission for providing every student with a quality education. The foundation directly supports district-wide and school-based programs and initiatives aimed at improving literacy, closing the minority achievement gap, and enhancing teacher quality, as well as enriching the experience for students and educators. We are pleased tonight to present you with $45,000 to fund 10 grants supporting teachers as they enhance the learning experience of students in the district. These grants will impact schools from pre-K through the 12th grade, reaching 4 elementary schools, all of the middle schools, and 3 of the district's high schools. A total of 14 schools will be impacted by these 10 grants. The curriculum and program instructions that the students will be impacted by these grants include bilingual education, special needs, biology, reading, foreign language, health science, and performing arts. Some of these grants will address key targeted learning initiatives subjects including STEM, robotics, as well as diversity and cultural awareness. This year, we stepped a little outside of the box, and we are awarding grants to support a coding club to prepare our students to be able to compete with students from other districts within the city as well as in the state. We also awarded a grant to a DJ performing arts program at Claude Middle School, but the one that we are most proud of is a study abroad program for Dekaney High School students, which will be a first for Spring ISD. I submit to you these funds and grants for your approval.
This is the money.
Because Ms. Westbrook's over there.
We'd like to thank you for this opportunity.
Don't leave. On behalf, Ms. Fuller, just a moment, Ms. Scott. On behalf of the Spring Independent School District Board of Trustees, we'd like to say thank you to the foundation. We are most appreciative for your work. I'd like everyone to know that the Board of Directors for the Spring Independent School District, they get the same big fat check that the school board trustees get. And they work very hard for that salary. They raise money all year long for our students and our teachers. Their job is to give back to Spring, and they do that very well. They're working very hard for their golf tournament that's coming up soon, but they really assist the district in awarding the district grants for several programs and things that we do throughout the year. So Ms. Beth Fuller, Barbara Sherman, Sandra Scott, and Ken Graves, who are here tonight, we would like for you to share with the rest of the Board of Directors that we thank you and we're very appreciative for your hard work for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for our next item, I'd like to recognize our Chief of School Leadership and Student Support Services, Dr. Lupita Hinojosa.
Thank you, Ms. Newhouse, and members of the board, Dr. Watson. Tonight, we're coming back to you to do a demonstration. As you will recall, in December, As part of our strategic priority special education update, we shared with you not only the work that we were doing under the compliance and the required corrective action steps that we're taking, but also we specifically talked about the instructional programs and the support that we were providing for our teachers and our students. During that discussion, we talked about the use, the purchase, the training, and the use of iPads in our special education classrooms. And you asked that we come back and talk to you a little bit more about how these iPads are being used. And so tonight, I want to recognize our Executive Director of Special Education, Ms. Peg Sherwood, also our Director of Special Education Programs and Campus Support, Ms. Ayana LeBron, as well as our Director of Special Education Accountability and Related Services, Mr. Matt Parasol. And I'm going to ask Mr. Parasol to come forward and share with you a little bit more about the work that we're doing with iPads in the classroom. Mr. Parasol. And we do have a student and some parents and teachers here that will introduce you throughout the presentation.
Good evening, President Newhouse, Dr. Watson, and members of the board. We have a student with us from Spring High School and her teacher who requested to come and open us up today.
Hi, Mama Dad. My baby, Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
I go to Spring High School.
Okay. It's okay.
I am 19 years old.
Wow.
19.
I go to Spring High School.
Hey, go Lions.
I point to symbols to communicate.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good afternoon. I'm Doria Griffin, Sarah's case manager.
What's your name again?
Doria Griffin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Griffin.
Meeting you, Sarah.
And Sarah.
Thank you.
And we will actually hear from Sarah and her case manager a little bit through some video clips as well that we're going to share. But technology has empowered Sarah in her ability to communicate, as you just saw. And it's one example of the many ways that Spring ISD's investment in technology is changing the life for our students in special education and across the district. And it's opening up doors for learning. And so we're excited today to share how the money that the board opened up for iPad integration into our schools and for our students and staff is changing lives. As Dr. Hinojosa said, last time we were with you last month, we shared with you the 4 pillars that are driving the work we are doing in special education. One of those pillars that we discussed was regarding student support, and that's where we spoke of the integration of iPads for instruction and documentation. So today's presentation is regarding a demonstration of some of those tools. The first tool we would like to share with you is Proliquo to Go and Cough Drop. Sarah was utilizing Proliquo to Go just there. It is an augmentation and an alternative communication software. And what it does is it allows students a voice with special needs who are unable to communicate other ways. Sarah is, she's not nonverbal, but it is hard to understand. And so that really opens up a lot of doors. It also provides, the software provides data for our teachers to monitor student progress and to help them even expand their communication more. And our first video clip will show you Proliquo to Go in action.
Hello.
I'm going to do a brief review about what we've been discussing in class. Can you tell me, I'm looking for, I think, an item or a thing that requires water, sunlight, and soil in order to be able to grow. What is that?
Hello, my name is Doria Griffin, and I'm Sarah's case manager at Spring High School. Although Sarah is verbal, she is difficult to understand. So Sarah has been using the Proloquo to Go communication app on the iPad provided by the district. When I started working with Sarah, we faced challenges of not being able to effectively understand her verbal communication. Upon utilizing the communication app, she has been more effective in communicating her wants and needs, in addition to participating in whole group lessons. Sarah is also able to communicate with her peers as well as the other staff.
The next app that we wanted to share with you is iReady. iReady is our supplemental special education curriculum resource. It is utilized in K through 8, specifically in the areas of reading and mathematics, when we have students who may be 2 grade levels or more behind in those 2 areas. And it truly has many data pieces behind it, as you will see, and students are highly motivated in their learning, and we see very great gains in their progress. So let's take a look at the power that iReady has in the hands of our students and staff.
iReady online learning environment assesses students' learning needs and provides individualized instruction. Students are engaged in a rigorous supplemental curriculum presented in an instructional format that transforms challenging content into fun, meaningful learning.
Hello, I'm Connie Goins, special education teacher at Lewis Elementary School. I'm here to introduce you to a tool that we use for our special design instruction. Our program is called iReady. We monitor our student overall growth by using a diagnostic tool. And as you can see, the student took the assessment at the beginning of the year. The student was at a 2nd grade level. The student took the assessment at the middle of the year. And now the student is performing at 3rd grade level. Our expectations for the students to continue to work on the program and continue our pathway to growth. And the student continues to be successful, the student will meet or exceed expectations. Another chart that is very helpful in order to monitor student overall performance on the diagnostic from iReady. This right here breaks down segments of the assessment. We have phonological awareness. The student actually masters what the student tests out. Okay, just to give an example, currently our student is working on making emphasis in the classroom, in the general classroom with the general education teacher. So we'll transition that piece. We use iReady as a tool that pull up the tools for instruction. And in this particular piece, the student is currently working on is making emphasis. I will teach the lesson from this guided lesson and also push the lesson to iReady. And once I'm done with the instructional piece, the student will go into iReady and complete the assignment as assigned. Combining what we know about iReady at Lewis Elementary School, first we can see in the student testimony, they find iReady is not as challenging and it's easy to access and improves upon their overall growth in reading and math. And we use this tool that is very instrumental in a teacher that have prepared us some guide instructions and prepare them for any test and assessment challenges that they may have encountered in the classroom by reincorporating iReady in special design instruction.
Our third program we'd like to share with you is unique, made by News to You. It has been our alternative special education curriculum for K through 12 for the last few years. With iPads, we're now able to integrate that into the use, the iPad use as well, as it works through smart boards, iPads, and on the computer as well. It is differentiated, it has assessments, and what it does is it really focuses on those TEAC prerequisite skills for our students in our CASE program. It has lessons aligned to core subject areas, their electives, as well as vocational, and their independent living skills. So let me pass it over to our teacher at Jenkins Elementary to show you more.
to them, which is really nice. This is the comprehension activity for a level 3 student. As you can see, there are only words written here without any of the picture support. So the student is able to read the question, what can Jack do with his eyes? And then from the 3 choices, he just has to touch that he would see with his eyes. It will read it for him, and then if he gets it correct, the green box will show up. But we might have a student who's not able to be so independent with their reading. In that situation, we're going to want to give the student a different level of activity. Now, for a level 2 student, they need a little bit more support than a level 3. In this case, what we're going to do is add some pictures to go with the answer choices to help support them. This particular student chose the wrong answer on question 1. But what's nice about this particular interactive version is that it's self-correct. So the student got it wrong, so it told him the answer choice out loud, but gave him a red box. On question 2, however, what do you do with their ears? They did choose the correct response of here. It repeats the answer choice to them and then gives it a green box. This for a level 1 student, because they need less distraction and the ability to focus, they're going to have bigger icons to choose from and only one question at a time presented to them. So the questions again still remain the same. What can Jack do with his eyes? As you see, the pictures are larger and they're spaced further apart so that the child can either show us through touch or eye gaze what their correct response would be. Another great feature is that we're able to download books for students to access independently. This particular student wants to know about snow day changes. So we downloaded a level ebook, and he's going to be able to turn pages and listen to the story on his own. Additionally, we're able to do fun things like experiments or crafts using the step-by-step directions on the iPad as well. In this particular case, we went ahead and printed out the lab report. The students were trying to determine if snowflakes look the same or if they look different. Now, our student here bent his pipe cleaners pretty uniquely. What shape did you make your snowflake into? It got a dinosaur. Another student wanted a very fancy snowflake. So after leaving these in borax overnight, Zach, what was our result? Are these snowflakes the same or different? Yeah, different. So they followed step-by-step directions on the iPad, but then they used the paper copy to record their result.
The last app that we would like to share with you tonight is MSB Xlogs. Xlogs came to the district this year. It was part of our transition from our RFP looking at our SHARS service provider. With MSB Xlogs, they do not market themselves as a SHARS billing service provider, but as documentation for special education. So we are able to use this tool to document our accommodations, our goal and objective progress, our SPED services that are delivered, as well as really look at the data to identify staffing projections, student progress, and then SHARS billing as well, which does generate a good amount of funds. We have 3 teachers in the next clip who are excited to tell you about the impact that it has made in freeing up time for them to serve their students in special education.
All right, I'm Luke Son of Oneonta High School. I wanted to give you an example of how MSB Xlogs have improved the situation at our campus. All right, up until this year, we would have a yellow folder in every class we attended. Every student, every month, would have a log sheet. We would spend a lot of time filling these out. We would replace them every month. This would be about 200 sheets per month. And then we would have to do weekly and then monthly analysis of this. As of right now, all the stuff is now online. It is helping us to keep track of our accommodations and our goals and objectives also, which is not even displayed here. The amount of paper we use to take care of that. It has improved the amount of time that we are using to make sure that we have all this information documented, and it gives us the opportunity to use that time back, give that time back to our students.
My name is Alita Lynch, and I'm a here. One of the things that I really enjoy about MSP is that it helps condense down the time it takes to paperwork. Hi, I'm Shelley Findle, and I work at middle school, and I want to tell you how much I enjoy using the MSD program. It makes it so much easier to do my service logs and keep track of my students and what they're doing in class, whether they're there. It took a while to get it set up, but the work that I did at the beginning was well worth it. Now, all I do is log in quickly, just kind of make a note or two for the different students, and then I'm done. I used to have to keep track of all kinds of paperwork, which took a long time, and now, as long as I keep up with the MSD, and it's very easy.
The documentation process begins with staff creating a calendar of the students and classes that they support. As you can see in the example, the week's worth of classes supported is visible from their current calendar view. A staff member simply clicks on the data they want to document services. Staff are able to put in the actual time services begin and ended, or mark a student as present or absent. Start and end times can be altered for the individual student if the student arrives late or leaves early. Once the student is marked present, activities box pops up where teachers are able to document the actual services or activities that were provided that day. By clicking accommodations, teachers are able to have a list generated of accommodations and modifications that were provided to document those services. As you can see from the example, each student is listed individually. Tracking student goal and objective data is just as easy and only takes a click, and progress can be entered. The system imports student goal and objective data from our SPED management system, eStar, so staff are able to select the students that they serve and have the information easily accessible from within the program. The progress made is entered in the data charts to track student progress from across providers, which enables every service provider to see the student's overall growth and plan for instruction accordingly. On behalf of the Special Education Department staff and the students of Spring ISD, we want to thank you for all the support that you have shown us. It has enabled us to drastically improve special education for our students and our staff. Several of our staff and students are present tonight, and Ayana LeBron, the Special Education Director of Programs and Campus Support, will be introducing them to you now.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Watson, cabinet members, and Spring ISD community. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you some of the teachers that played an instrumental role in the creation of this video, as well as the teachers who really make an impact on our students day to day. So when I call your name, if you would please stand. From Lewis Elementary, Miss Connie Goins. From Jenkins Elementary, Miss Shelley Fine. From Bailey Middle School, Miss Alita Leverston. And you all have been able to speak with her briefly. From Spring High School, Miss Doria Griffin. This presentation would not have been able to happen without a couple of our students who decided to come. You did get to meet Miss Sarah Whistler. And her parents have joined her today. Thank you. Please feel free to stand. I'm sorry. Mr. and Miss Whistler.
Thank you, parents.
Thank you. And from Jenkins Elementary, Zach and his family.
Thank you, Zach.
We thank you for the opportunity to share with you what we've been doing in Spring ISD within special education. We thank you for opening the doors to these opportunities. It means a lot to the staff in the district, as well as the growth of our students. Lastly, I would like to introduce some of the coordinators who play an instrumental role in the trainings and pushing out the resources that we are using in Spring ISD. If you are a coordinator for special education and you're here tonight, please stand. Thank you so much.
And who says we don't get paid? That was rewarding.
Thank you. And that concludes our demonstration. And we hope that we're able to, in a very short, limited time, to be able to show you the impact that the funding has made, not only in the teachers and their work, but most importantly, the impact that it's having directly on our students. So thank you for your continued support.
And thank you, Dr. Hinojosa. That was a fantastic presentation, demonstration by you guys. So thank you. And as Mr. Rand just told me, who says we don't get paid? That is a big paycheck to our hearts. A big paycheck to our hearts. We are most appreciative and proud and happy to see the accomplishments of the iPads. Thank you.
Madam President.
Would anyone else like to say something?
Yes, I certainly do. You know, this is dear to my heart because I have a loved one that has special needs, and it's amazing that if this technology had been available 30 years ago. So I'm kind of emotional right now. So thank you, Dr. Watson and leadership team for doing the right thing for our children. And our parents ought to be excited, you know, that we have these type of tools in our district to help our kids with special needs. And let me leave it alone.
Thank you. Thank you. So our next item, I'd like to introduce Trustee Justine Durance for the Board Governance Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. I'm handing out some documentation to my colleagues to facilitate a conversation around the naming of some of our upcoming facilities and roads. We've been having a lot of dialogue around the streets and the circles, the drive that goes around the stadium, in naming those various streets. And we also have our memorial that we still need to name, as well as our professional development building that's off of I-45. I've received feedback from the community that we've all seen and recommendations, and then the board themselves has provided each individual what their pleasure would be, and I've captured all of that in the document that I've just shared with the board. And so I'm actually going to yield so that we can have a dialogue and a conversation around what direction we want to take in naming the appropriate facilities and streets. And I think I'll start with Trustee Bell.
Thank you. One of the assignments I have, and I'll talk about mine and also give my input on some of the others. One of the great things that we're doing, and I think the community should be proud of, and I don't know if anybody else is doing this in the state, we will have a memorial that will recognize those who served and in some cases those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country. That is being done in conjunction with the stadium, and we're very excited about that. The Spring community does not have anything like this. And you know, as far as naming goes, I think this is a project where the name itself should be what it is. It should, at bare minimum, just be the Spring ISD, maybe Veterans Memorial or Memorial. I don't think a personal name is appropriate. We might think of some other name, but I think just it will stand essentially for what it is. So I don't put forward any specific name beyond what it is, and that's going to be a memorial for veterans. So certainly open to any input. Well, and let me back up and say, Captain Davis has been real instrumental. We have a committee. Captain Davis has worked on it, as well as a number of others in the district. But I want to recognize Captain Davis for his input, his ongoing input, and also Captain Boyer with Spring High School. He has been tremendous in providing information on this project. So, I mean, just the name that I'm putting forward is just the Spring ISD, maybe Veterans Memorial.
Veterans Memorial, I like that.
At this point in time, at this juncture.
Any other comments on the memorial?
Let me, before we move on, one of the things that we did, and Dr. Hill, you can help me with this. I'm aware of a couple of our students in the district who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, one from Spring, and we had a West Point grad from Westfield. But I did a little research, and we identified some individuals who had been killed in action in the most recent wars or battles, whatever you call them. And I had Dr. Hill to look into those. We identified those who showed Spring, Texas as their home. And I don't think we identified any others from the ones we already knew. Was that pretty much the case?
That's correct, just the one that we confirmed. Mhm.
Okay, we just confirmed one, and there could be others. But we are aware that we've had some in the district, and there could be others. But I just wanted to share that information.
I love this idea of having a memorial. I'm not sure I want it to be Veterans Memorial at this time. I think there certainly should be a Veterans section, but there are other people I would like to memorialize it with this, especially if we have the people buying bricks to memorialize people. That seemed to be one way that we might be having the community involvement. So I like the plainer the better.
Yeah. And let me back up again. Dr. Jensen worked with us from the very beginning when she was board president, and I do recall we did have a conversation about not only memorializing those who served our countries, but others as well. So I'm certainly open to that as well.
The other thing I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask the point of clarity. So initially, it will be the veterans recognizing the various branches of service, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We will recognize the major branches, Coast Guard, plus the Merchant Marines and the POWs.
Okay.
POWMIA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I noticed that some of these are called avenues, circles, ways, lanes.
Okay, before we move on to those, let's
all right.
wrap up the memorial. Okay. So Trustee Bell is proposing that we name it just what it is, the Spring ISD Memorial or the Spring ISD Veterans Memorial. So, Madam President, what's your pleasure tonight regarding the memorial?
If we are ready, I think we can vote on it. If you'd like to have any other discussion.
No,
Can we get your name again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly open with not putting in veterans. If we don't necessarily have to do that. We did have on the front end. We did have discussions about the recognition of others. Now, how we do that, that'll be an ongoing discussion. Whether we do bricks or plant trees or do benches or anything like that. Dr. Jensen, you want to have any more comment on that?
I'd just like to state for the record that I am not against veterans. I've been married for 50 years to one. I'm the daughter of one, great-great-granddaughter of one. It goes on back. So I absolutely love this idea of community memorial. I just know that the non-veterans have given their lives sometimes for Spring as well, and that's why I want to keep it open.
I think it looks like I'm seeing nods and consensus that everyone is now ready to vote on it. So if I can get a motion.
Yes. I'd like to move that the memorial at our new stadium will be named the Spring ISD Memorial.
Second.
It has been moved by Justine Durant and seconded by Donald Davis. that We name our new memorial the Spring ISD Memorial. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Carries unanimously. We thank you. We now have a name for our memorial.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Jensen.
The next item I wanted to bring forth is everyone should have a copy of this in front of you. It's a map of the stadium itself, and it shows the various streets around the stadium that we also need to name as well. And so if you look at the red, you can see we have the ring, the loop, I guess you would call it, that goes all the way around. Let me find out. I believe Trustee Anders was going to submit something for. Then we have the two streets that run along the side of the stadium within that loop. We have the two entranceways, entrance A and B. And then we also have the street that runs in front of the memorial that we need to name. Names have been submitted. We've had a lot of conversation. I don't think we have consensus yet. I know that Madam President had a recommendation she wanted to bring forth, and I think Dr. Jensen has a comment as well.
And so did I. I would.
Everybody
Yeah.
open for discussion.
I mentioned to Trustee Durant that as I looked at the location of the streets and what we were trying to do, I listened to the recommendation that was made by Trustee Gonzalez on Gridiron Circle, and I thought we should include our school mascots in this in some way. So I thought about what about naming it the Lions Way, Wildcat Way or Alley, and Mustang Drive, but something that recognized our mascots for our schools. And I just wanted to make that suggestion to the committee.
And Madam President, that was going to be my comment, that we have some kind of consistency with the names. I know we had indicated maybe some personal names, but have some type of consistency. I had not thought about that. I know Captain Davis had a recommendation for one specific street in front of the memorial, but yeah, I think some consistency, whether we do that or whether we go with a football theme or an ROTC theme or a band theme or something that gives light to exactly what that athletic complex is. So
I like that. Actually, I like that.
I just kind of thought that would tie all the schools involved in playing there at the stadium in some way. That we recognize their mascots.
I can see the light bulb.
Oh, now we only have 3 mascots of schools that actually play teams there, right? And we've got more roads than that.
Well, I like the gridiron. To her
Mhm.
point, I'd like to keep that stays with the theme. I like having a consistent theme. I think that's a good direction to take, from my perspective.
So let me ask the question, does Early College in Winchie have any type of mascot that they recognize in their building for any reason?
We do have mascots, however, they're not part
An
of any
yes, yes.
events at all.
Right. Mhm. But they do have mascots that we would be including them and they would not be left out in terms of recognizing all of our schools.
Yes, we could include the Phoenix, so we could include them, they just wouldn't be involved in athletic events, but it would allow us to, plan for the future if there's any changes in the
The Phoenix and
the Alphas, I'm sorry. Alphas at Early College and Phoenix at Winchie.
Okay.
And they've got their own colors also.
Madam President, I would, just thinking about your suggestion, maybe the Lions Lane, maybe Decaney Drive, maybe Westfield Way, as an example. I do like the Gridiron.
Yeah, I like the Gridiron.
One thing that I do want to mention, we had a coach here many years ago, before my time, I was not even here, who was very well known prior to him taking over our Westfield High School, and that was Coach Emery Ballard, who's in a couple of Hall of Fames, and I don't know if we've ever recognized him here in the district. And he predates me here, but I was well aware of him when he was at Texas A&M, and I would potentially want to see some type of recognition for him, whether it's a street name or something like that. But those are my suggestions: Lions Way, Decaney Drive, Westfield, Lions Lane, Decaney Drive, Westfield Way, as an example of at least 3 of those streets. Keeping in mind that Captain Davis also had a recommendation as well.
After all the conversation, I'm in agreement with our president, because I'm in agreement.
I'm gonna second or third or fourth that.
We have a consensus.
Bringing the high schools in the way that you're talking about, whether it's Lion Lane or Decaney Drive or whatever, has the benefit of equity in terms of our representation of our students. So I had the idea for naming one of the streets Spring Way, but then I thought about, well, like Spring Way is representing the district, but it also kind of double represents Spring High School. And so we could keep that and then add in a way to acknowledge that Westfield and Decaney are also home teams on that field. So I like the president's idea as well.
Since we have 5 high schools, since we have 5 schools we're considering, our 5 high schools, I would still like to see Amendoza Way or Amendoza, where we want to choose. I like to see that name.
Amendoza Avenue.
Yeah, Avenue. I like where we want. I like to see a name on that. Remain on there. After we do out of 5, we're gonna still have 2 names left over.
Well,
only 1 name left over because we got
Gridiron. So I was
Gridiron.
thinking to maybe for the memorial, we would maybe leave the veteran you recommended.
Yeah, I said I took the name. I removed that.
I'd like to keep it.
No, wait a minute.
I said move that.
We've already voted on
No,
that.
no. That's a memorial. That's for
No, the street in front of the memorial.
street
We
in
named the
front of the
memorial. There's a street in front of
Okay.
the memorial that
Okay.
Trustee Davis was wanting to name. And I think both he and Deborah Jensen did recommend veterans from the district, that maybe that would be a way to,
Is that the
just a suggestion.
Yeah, Felicia. Matter of fact, this-
Felicia, and then Frederick L., and I don't want to butcher the last name, is it Marcel?
Maciel?
I thought it was Maciel, but I'm not sure too.
Would
We certainly need to know that.
Tiffany, you know how to pronounce it?
Yeah.
would you want to just name the street Veterans? I mean, we've got a Veterans Memorial over here.
That's perfect.
Would you want to name it Veterans something? I mean, not a person's name per se, but just
Veterans
Okay,
Way.
so
I like that.
All right, let me add it up here. It's 5.
5 streets. We got 2 left. Right.
Just one. With the gridiron.
We're down. We got 1 left. Right.
Mhm.
So we're not going to take off the.
I think if we
Amendoza
take
Way.
those, if we take in Winchie, sorry,
Yeah.
early college and
Winchie, we'd have Phoenix
mhm.
or Alpha, but
That's what I would
definitely
recommend.
Phoenix.
So, currently, we have
We never know
Drive.
when
They're
those
right now
schools
they're
will be
called
using-
Drive A, B, C, D, E, and F. So there's 5 of them.
So
With
one's
the
Gridiron.
Gridiron, that takes
Mhm.
us to 4. With our 3 high schools, that leaves just the 1. And I actually would
So it's my
keep
it's
Winchie in there.
my understanding that the Winchie students who want to participate in sports play for their home schools. There's
school they're
So-
zoned to.
If
Mhm.
it's spring,
Are Spring Early College students also doing that?
No.
And I would say at
So
some
we're
point in
evolving,
time,
Winchie.
yeah,
all of-
these students could be using the facility at some point in
Right.
time for some event. So, okay,
so what we,
is that the Phoenix?
I think so.
Phoenix?
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to try to kind of summarize. So for the loop, we've got the gridiron, and you gave us gridiron lane, right? Gridiron circle, and it's a circle. That's perfect. For drive A, I kind of with the LL Lion Lane. Okay. Drive B, Decaney Drive, DD Decaney Drive. Drive D would be Mustang. I'm open.
You mean
I'm
Wildcat
sorry, I
Drive?
meant, okay, Wildcat Drive.
Okay.
And
Wildcat
then-
Way.
Wildcat
I'm
Way.
sorry, Wildcat Way.
Wildcat Way.
Whoa, wait a minute. No.
Do I need to start over? The gridiron, Lion Lane.
May I point out something? B looks like it's a main entryway off of Cypress
Yes.
Wood.
A and
And
B.
that seems to be different from the other drives. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the two entry rays were Rhonda and I. Jana had the loop, and you and Winfred had the inner drives, and then Trustee Davis had the street in front of the memorial.
Laura.
But I think either way it would be okay.
Okay.
That's my thought. Anybody else? Everyone
So-
okay with the direction we're taking?
So we're
Anyone's
doing
objecting?
the mascots then. We're not.
We're doing the
school
mascots. I got lost
Okay, I'm
in my
sorry.
own sauce.
I'm sorry. My apologies, yeah.
So Lion Lane,
Lion Lane, okay.
Wildcat Way, Mustang Drive, Veterans Drive, and then we're including Winchie is the Phoenix, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Gridiron-
Phoenix,
Gridiron
Place?
Circle.
Park Place,
Phoenix Place.
Place.
Okay.
Y'all like it? All right.
Harmon,
Okay. That kind of incorporates athletics and our campuses and makes it their home. So, hope someone took good notes for me.
We did. We did.
Because we need a motion.
We did. We may discuss which one will be named what. But right now, we have
So
the
we
names.
need to do that.
No, we don't have to do that now, do we? Just need to name.
I think we need to know which.
Which
Okay.
one is which? Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get it right here. I'm gonna have it ready for you. Okay. So I'm gonna do this. So A is Lion Lane. B was you. Which one do you want?
What was
And
the
these are the
next
two
one?
entries. So one entrance will be Lion Lane, and the other entrance will be
Alphabetically, Mustang Drive.
Oh, we said, okay. We've got the
Just
gridiron
going
for the
alphabetical.
ring. Drive D. Select from the mascots.
Well, I think Wildcat.
Wildcat.
Wildcat Way.
Trustee Adams. That leaves the Phoenix, right?
Yes, Phoenix Place.
And then Trustee Davis, you're in agreement with it being called Veteran
Mhm.
Drive?
Mhm.
So which one is Veterans?
The street in front of the memorial.
Is that F?
That's F.
F.
F, yeah.
F, yes. It's F on your map.
Okay. I didn't know that was a street. I thought that was just the memorial.
It was the street in front of the
Okay.
A, B, C, D, and F's are actual streets.
Okay.
Thank you, courtesy of Mr. Miranda. Okay.
Wait, what was C?
C is the gridiron. It's not. It doesn't say C on. It's the loop. It's
Okay,
the
I
big.
got it.
That goes all the way around the stadium.
Okay, so grid-
Miranda, get all that?
Okay.
I got it. I'm ready for my motion, I think. After Madam President determines that there's no more discussion, calls for it, I'll give her her motion.
Okay. Hearing no more discussion, I will now call for a vote. Motion.
Okay, I move that the circles and drives around our new stadium, entry drive A will be the Lions Lane. Entry drive B will be Mustang Drive. The loop around the stadium will be the Gridiron Circle. Drive D, which is on the home side, the street on the home side of the stadium will be Wildcat Way. The street on the visitor side will be Phoenix Place. And the drive in front of the memorial will be Veterans Drive. That's my motion.
Second.
It has been moved by Justine Durant, second by Whitford Adams Jr., that we name the streets Lions Way, A, Lions Lane, B, Mustang Drive, C, Gridiron Circle, D, Wildcat Way, E, Phoenix Place, and F, Veterans Lane. Veterans Drive? Okay. Thank you. Veterans Drive. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
I'm glad that's over.
We
All
can
right, we have
now
one more item.
put those.
And that's the Professional Development Building on I-45, formerly that old ITT building. That will be used for training and professional development for all of our staff within the district. At our work session on last Thursday, we had a conversation around renaming the current Learning Center. More around a community engagement center, which is what is used now for parents and community engagement, and then naming that facility more around the professional development pathway. So we had a couple of suggestions on Thursday, which was the Spring ISD Learning and Engagement Center or the Spring ISD Learning Center. And then I also wanted to propose, Communications has created a branding for the facility itself. It says Teach Up Spring. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to see the logo. And I thought it could also be the Teach Up Spring Learning Center. So we've got 3 recommendations, and I'd like to open up the floor for discussion.
Can you repeat those for us?
Okay, they're in the last column on the
Okay.
spreadsheet I sent out. In the first row, it says discussion, Spring ISD Learning and Engagement Center, Spring ISD Learning Center, and then Teach Up Spring Learning Center.
Okay, that's
the one I added tonight. That's not on your sheet.
And that's the one that they've done some
The
branding.
branding logo. I'll pass it down if you haven't had a chance to see it.
Now, the current building
Have to,
has that name, so we're talking about.
Then have to rename that one if we vote to do this tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I like what we proposed on last Thursday, changing the current Learning Center to the Learning and Engagement Center and naming the ITT building the Spring ISD Learning Center, where we're going to do most of our professional development.
I thought we had talked about naming the current Learning Center the Community Engagement.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah. Community Engagement Center.
Yeah, I like that.
So is that number 1 on here? We're just missing the word community?
Right.
Right.
No.
It's not.
These
Okay.
two on here were just recommendations that were discussed on Thursday for the new facility. If we choose to name it the Learning Center, we will need to rename the current Learning Center, and the recommendation Thursday was the Community Engagement Center.
We're talking about two separate.
So it's two
buildings.
separate,
Okay.
correct. But you need to make the, if it's your pleasure to make that decision, and we're gonna name the new facility, I thought we should do that and then come back and rename. Which means I'll have a fourth item tonight instead of just three.
Well, and thank you, Communications, for this. I didn't see this last week. I was running late. But I like the logo. I like the Teach Up Spring. What did you say? The Teach Up Spring Learning Center? I do like that. That would be a recommendation I would certainly support with whatever branding that they're going to do. That's going to be the ITT building right on the freeway? Yeah. Okay. Pass it. That would be my recommendation.
Now, let me clarify. You want Teach Up Spring. You don't want Teach Up Spring Learning Center.
Yes.
That's just a suggestion I gave this evening.
Yeah. That's just adding Learning Center to the Teach Up Spring.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Teach Up Spring is a new logo that we are going to be branding, carrying out. That is correct. That's been decided.
Can we
So,
Could we hear
to it a little bit?
bit
Can
more
you speak?
about?
can we
Yeah.
get a little background from Communications on how that came about?
I'll also let Dr. Hill jump in too as well. So you know the efforts and the investment we've been doing in professional development under the workforce development team. We worked with Ms. Farinas to look at a logo. When we knew the building, this building was primarily going to be focused on teacher professional development through the workforce development team. We worked with Ms. Farinas to come up with a logo. We think the visibility, we wanted to offer up something, because as you know, branding too, when there's visibility, and the visibility on I-45, to really kind of talk about our investment and what that building is doing. So we came up with the logo that's being used by the workforce development department already on all their PowerPoints when they're doing teacher education, and anything that's related to professional development for teachers has been branded under Teach Up Spring, led by the workforce development team. So with that, we thought it would be nice for consideration with the visibility on I-45 for traffic going up and down I-45 to see that investment that we have
In
in helping our teachers teach up our students.
I think that's a very catchy logo, and I love having spring there so they know what school district this is. So I like the name of the building. And I prefer the Spring ISD Community Engagement Center, as we discussed.
Was the other one.
Yeah.
I also like that when we mentioned it the other night, the Teach Up Spring, for that building. And as you said, the visibility that we will get from right there on I-45 will be a tremendous positive asset for the district, I think.
I think one of the things that really sets the priority that the board has this year around teacher development and support and coaching. And so anything that we do in that building is going to be solely about teacher development and support, with model classrooms in that building where teachers can go and see the strategies and expectations that we have in the classroom. They can go there and actually have it and see a setup that's there in the building.
I think is also, the way I think about the district in terms of becoming a district of choice in the region, not just for students, but for faculty and staff. And so that branding opportunity, I think, may give us some competitive advantage as we build that brand amongst educators working in the region. So yeah, I like Teach Up Spring as well.
I think we're ready for a vote. Can I get a motion?
I don't want to do them all. in
Clarification,
shuttle.
are we getting a motion for 2 buildings?
We're going to do one at a time.
One at a time, okay.
Let's do one at a time.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that we name the building on I-45 the Teach Up Spring Learning Center.
Second.
It has been moved by Jana Gonzalez, second by Winfred Adams, that we name our new building on I-45 Teach Up Spring Learning Center. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Carries unanimously.
I like these unanimous votes. Okay. With that, we now have a fourth item on the agenda, and that is the renaming of our current learning center. So on Thursday night, we had the Community Engagement Center, and I think we had some other thoughts this evening, so I'm going to open it up for a discussion with my colleagues. You had something you liked? Yeah. Okay.
I think there was one suggestion. You had a suggestion.
It's the one that was already there. It was the Spring Community Engagement Center, Spring ISD Community Engagement Center. I understand that most of the activities going on there right now are community engagement.
The community and parents.
And also, this is the one place where you can have one free meeting a year, isn't it, a year? So, that we're offering to the community, so.
There was community engagement going on while we were there for board appreciation. Parents in there.
And that's also the facility that we designated when we changed our policy to allow spring residents to the utilization of that facility at no cost on a first come, first served basis. So it's for the community. That's what we're using it for now.
I still, and I've said this before, and I'll go on record again, saying I want to make sure when we have these discussions that certainly the purpose of the facilities, but also there are a number of individuals in the community, some living, some not, who I think always need to be in the conversation when we have these types of conversations. Excuse me. I'm not putting anybody's name forth on this one, but I just want to keep that in the forefront, that we do have a lot of individuals in the community. And we've got a list that's been generated over the years as we have these discussions, that's all. So I have no problem with the proposal, though.
Okay. I'd like to call for a motion.
I move that we name the President Learning Center, Spring ISD Learning and
Community.
Okay, well, I'm letting it write down correctly then. Spring Community and Engagement Center. Got it right?
Is that clear?
Can you repeat that?
Spring
Community.
Spring ISD.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I said Spring ISD. He said no. So what's we going with?
It's Spring
ISD.
Okay. Spring ISD Community and Engagement Center.
I don't think we have the "and" in it.
That's
It's
that
just
was
community
it's okay.
engagement.
I just like a point of clarity. Okay.
Spring ISD Community Engagement Center.
Second.
Thank you, colleagues.
Second it.
It's been moved by Donald Davis and second by Justine Durant that we name the Present Learning Center, change the name of the Present Learning Center to Spring ISD Community Engagement Center. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Madam President.
Miranda, we have now given you your names.
You got your names. I hope somebody's texting their staff over there.
Before we, he's a happy man. He's a happy man.
Yes, Mr. Bell.
Before we move on, and I've mentioned this before, I would like, whether we do it now or whether we take it, Trustee Durant, to your committee, I would like for us at some point in time to have a discussion about renaming the police station. And I want to also point out that we have 2 schools that share the same name, that we have some conversation on that. And so, Trustee Durant, is that something that needs to go back to your committee, that we can have that discussion?
You're talking about Clark.
I'm talking about, yes, Clark
And
And
Clark.
Bamel.
and Bammel. Yeah, but just clarification. I would like for
So-
us to look at that.
The committee would bring forth recommendations based on the direction from the board itself. So if that's the direction that you're providing us, or if that's something that we're all interested in taking a look at, that's fine. I'd have to say that I'm opposed to changing the name, so.
Of all of them?
Myself.
Okay.
But I'm one person, so
Yeah,
whatever you all
well, I
ask.
do think, you know, we never had a chance really to talk about the police facility. You know, we didn't have a vote on that. We have 2 Bammel schools. One's Bammel Middle, one's Bammel Elementary. They were named for the community. It's sometimes confusing. My recommendation would look at renaming Bammel Elementary School. And then we have the 2 Clark schools, which are in my community. It's very unique. I knew Mr. Clark, but there might be an opportunity there to also look at renaming one of the 2 schools.
I don't think it hurts to look and see how expensive it would be to change many, many things about a school that are already named. But I don't think it hurts to look at it, because I certainly understand what you're saying about there is confusion sometimes with people,
Yeah.
which Bammel they're going to or whatever.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
The Clarks are across the street from each
Yeah,
other.
I don't
so
know
that's an-
what the cost would be. HISD renamed a number of their schools that were named after individuals affiliated with the Civil War. No, so we're not talking about that extensive of a change. Trustee Durant, I don't know what, you have any particular opposition? I mean, give us insight into that.
I think those facilities are some of our older facilities in the district. I think that the community has built atmosphere around those names and the branding of those schools. I think the 2 Clarks, by being, one's primary and one's intermediate, but it's actually still one community. So I think it still ties them together with the one name, so they don't appear as a separate. So that's just some of my hesitation, but I mean, I'm flexible to the board's pleasure. That's just, I would leave them as they are.
And we do have precedent. We did change what is now Reynolds. Reynolds
It
was
used to be
named after the community.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't here when that change was made, so I don't know the background
We did that.
at all to that change. But we do have precedent in the district for doing that. And again, I would certainly like to look at the police station. We didn't have really any input into that.
I think they were just really moving from where they were, so the name just moved with them is what was my understanding. I don't know if there was anything different. It was already the Spring ISD police station. They were just moving into a new facility, which is why I don't think it came to the board. But I mean, I'm open to whatever the board would like.
I mean, I guess we could look at it. I agree. I think the cost, I'm not sure what the cost would be to do that. You know, stationery, T-shirts that the students have already purchased, and then again, like Trustee Durant mentioned, the community's already bought into that Clark community. So that's just my thought, is the cost. What is it going to cost us to do something like that?
And we did, even at Clark, we went with separate principals, and we ended up going back with one principal because we want to make sure it's one school. So that's kind of why. Those are just that's my opinion.
Well, I think one of the things that might be interesting to investigate is to ask the people at the schools themselves how they feel.
Great.
So why don't we make that a item on the next, actually, we meet on the 24th, governance committee, and we'll talk about it and bring forth thoughts on moving forward with your recommendation, Trustee Bell.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you to the governance committee. This will go back to them, but thank you for your hard work in naming our stadium and additional work that you have to do.
And I want to recognize my committee members, which is Dr. Deborah Jensen and Trustee Winford Adams.
Yeah.
Thank you. So for our next item, I'd like to recognize our Chief of Human Resource Officer, Dion McKeithen.
Good evening, President Newhouse, Dr. Watson, other members of the board. Really just wanted to bring back an item that we were talking about at the board work session, which is our spring rewards program in regards to strategic compensation. We really had a really robust conversation on Thursday night as Dr. Laquita Carter eloquently went through the presentation that you have in front of you, really just highlighting our focus on rewarding high performance from our employees, and specifically our teachers as well as our campus classroom paraprofessionals that are actually driving the work with our students in order to get the achievement in which we all believe is possible here in Spring ISD. So with that being said, I don't want to go back through that presentation, but certainly we believe that program is going to be something that is going to help us not only recruit the best talent in Spring ISD, but also be able to retain the top talent within the district in order for us to continue to impact the lives of our scholars. And so one of the things as a result of that conversation on Thursday night, Dr. Watson actually had a conversation with me and actually wanted to propose that we also look at another portion of the strategic compensation, and that is adding an incentive for our principals. And so we know that a building leader is incredibly important in order to drive the work that's happening within our schools. And so we wanted to be able to reward and incentivize those principals that are driving those buildings in order to get the work accomplished that we know is happening for our students. And so what you have in front of you, also in the maroon folder, you also have a document that states Spring Rewards principal incentive. And so really not to go too deep on it, but I think it's really simplified. As you know, for state accountability, they actually are going to provide a letter grade for all of our schools. And so we know that the expectation, I believe Board President Newhouse challenged us to go after that A, right? And that's the expectation of the board, is have as many schools at an A. And so we want to accept that challenge and be able to incentivize our principals even further to be able to capture those results for our students. And so if you go to really the third page in that PowerPoint, you'll see that we're looking what we're looking at for the principal incentive. And so based off of the A through F ratings, what we're proposing here is that each campus principal will be eligible for an incentive up to $5,000. And so if the building, based off of the state accountability, comes back with a letter grade of an A, and so they've built that culture, they built that campus for the achievement for our students to be an A, we are proposing that we provide an incentive for those principals to give them $5,000. Okay, for a grade B, We're also grade B is also a very strong result, and we believe that our principals are pushing towards that A, but we also want to reward those who reach the target of a B as well. And so if you see there, we're proposing that we give them a $3,000 incentive if that, based off of the accountability for that school, if they come back with a letter grade B, that we want to give them a $3,000 incentive. And so we know that A's and B's is, and you know, even as a child in the report card, I mean, that was a drive from the parents is to get A's and B's, right? And so we want to have that high standards and expectation for our campus leaders across our district, and we believe that this is not only a attainable target for our principals, but also is going to be, as with our teacher and paraprofessionals, is going to be a challenging one to be able to do. However, we believe that we can get there, and so we want to provide that incentive to do that. Also, you can see here, we looked at our 17-18 results. Actually, Ann and her team actually looked at it, and if we were going to provide the incentive off of our 17-18 results, really our payout would have been $38,000 for the principals that were able to capture either that A or that B rating. And so you can see that we had 12 principals that we would have been able to provide that incentive to back based off of the 17-18 results. So a little bit different in what we're asking because one of the eligibility requirements is that and we're looking at this and really the expectation is to have it for both our teacher and paraprofessional incentive as well as our principals, is that the principal does have to be in good standing. And so as determined by the superintendent, working with myself as well as our legal team, we'll define what good standing is for the district, but we want to make sure that we have that caveat there that we're making sure that we are providing the incentive to the right people for the right work for our students. And so one of the big differences from the teacher incentive is that for the teacher and the paraprofessional incentive that we talked about on Thursday night, we would actually implement that plan for the 19-20 school year. So basically we would look at all the results for the 19-20 school year, and we would provide the payout in the 20-21 school year, okay? For the principals, we are actually asking for the board to look at proposing that we move forward with this year's results and with a payout in 19-20 for our principals with this incentives that are on page 3. So basically, we are wanting to incentivize this second half of the year for our principals to really make a strong push for the end of this year for our students. And all of those principals in the 18-19 school year that reached that A or B, we want to provide this level of incentive for them in a payout in 19-20 based off of this year's results. So that's the difference between the two. And so as you guys are considering both of these programs, we want you to consider and actually vote on them separately because they are different years in their payouts. That make sense?
Yep. That's fantastic. I've been real passionate about this, and it's been difficult to make sure that it's equitable and it's able to track and monitor and be successful in how we fund it. And I'm real excited that we've reached a point where we're able to do that. After our Thursday night discussion, I was actually this weekend, I was thinking, what are we going to do about our principals? I don't think we said anything about our principals, so I'm really glad to see that you brought that forward.
And just for clarification,
Yes, sir.
you said 19-20. Did you mean 2020?
Yeah, you did.
19 to 20.
It was
19
19 to 20.
Our 19-20 school year?
That's
Okay.
school year.
Okay, I just wanted.
Room 2019, 2020.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you.
2021.
All right, just for the note, for the minute.
Talk to me too.
Okay, all right. Wasn't the only one.
Not 19.
Okay.
But
I got you.
I'm in full support of
I
that.
got you. Noted.
Are we going to make a motion and then have a discussion of this, or?
That's the way we should do it.
We do need to make a motion. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees approve implementation of the strategic compensation plan for the 2019-2020 school year. Limit payments under the plan to only those eligible employees who are in good standings, and authorize the superintendent or designee to define the criteria for determining whether an employee is in good standings for purpose of the plan.
Okay, Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve implementation of the strategic compensation plan for the 2019-2020 school year. Limited payments under the plan to only those eligible employees who are in good standing, and authorize the superintendent or his designee to define the criteria for determining whether an employee is in good standing for the purpose of the plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Justine Durant and seconded by Winfred Adams that the Board of Trustees approve the implementation of the strategic compensation plan for the 2019-2020 school year. Limit payments under the plan to only those eligible employees who are in good standing, and authorize the superintendent or designee to define the criteria for determining whether an employee is in good standings for purpose of the plan. Is there any discussion?
So what does it currently mean for an employee to be in good standing?
So when you look at that employee that's not on a growth plan or a plan of improvement, or has been suspended for any reason, meaning that they're not out of their building.
And attendance is part of that?
Yes, so when we look at attendance, we don't have problems with principals' attendance, but as we go through that, that would be something that we would bring back and look at. These are all the criteria. We have criteria in terms of board policy that relates specifically to people being terminated, but we would go back through and have that discussion to determine what is going to be in good standing. Typically, we look at, is the principal in their building? They're not on leave for any investigation or anything. My principal is not on a probationary plan because of lack of growth in their schools or lack of movement in their schools. And technically, if they didn't have growth or movement, they wouldn't get the incentive anyway. And so we're really looking for disciplinary infractions or issues that cause them not to be able to be on their campus.
I'm trying to conceptualize what like a worst case scenario would look like, where you had a principal that was doing all that stuff but still had an A-rated school. Like, so how are we going to deal with that?
So that could happen if someone was, there was an alleged incident that happened with the principal in a school, and they were out of the building for a considerable amount of time, where an investigation was going on, and it comes back and it was substantiated, and the principal would be on leave pending whatever agreement that we come up with you all.
My second question is since we're including everybody, I see the associate and assistant principals are not included in this incentive program, and they are playing a huge part in the success of a campus as well. So I wondered if we had any thoughts on maybe in the future making sure we take care of our APs as well.
Absolutely. One of the things we talked about on Thursday was phase one. We do know Dr. Jensen had mentioned also about other core teachers who may not have a state rating based upon there's no state test for them. And so we are already in discussions about phase two and what that looks like, and how we're going to pull people together and figure out then what is going to be the assessment that we're going to use, or what is going to be the criteria in terms of that approach. And so, yes, we would be looking at other ones in a phase two.
So I don't want to so I had some time to think about this over the weekend, and I have a few minor concerns about unintended consequences. Incentive plans have been tried in other districts here locally and haven't always worked out. They can be morale killers and a bunch of other issues that sometimes happen when the system isn't equitable. So I just want to be sure that we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's when it comes to the equitable administration of this incentive.
Absolutely. That's another question that I had conversations with actually Monday in our cabinet meeting. And one of the things that we talked about is, yes, we want to incentivize individuals in those areas that we see shortages in, based upon hard to fill areas. Also, those areas, for example, all of Cabinet just went through the state testing training yesterday. And when you go through the whole training process and you hear all of the things that, fortunately or unfortunately, depending upon what your philosophy is, that core teachers that are state tested have to do as compared to other individuals who are not, we are not trying to develop an incentive plan for every teacher in the district or for every employee in the district. That's why we have cost of living increases, and that's why we people have their regular salaries. What we are looking at are those hard to fill areas, or those areas where we're struggling the most, that have the greatest detriment to the credibility and the standing of the district, and we're wanting to incentivize those individuals. We're not saying that other people don't work hard. As a person who didn't always just have a curriculum and instruction degree and special ed and PVA, there are differences. Everyone works hard, but there are different pressures that come about as it relates to the things that those teachers are accountable for showing and doing. I do think that paramount to that is going to be how we really go out and explain that.
Right.
At the very beginning, that we're not putting people down or punishing people because they are not doing this, but there are some critical things that if we're not showing growth or performance in as a district, it will impact the entire district.
Thank you.
I have a few thoughts. There's not going to be any perfect plan, and this would be the first iteration, and I'm sure it will be improved in the future. The other thing is, the way this plan is developed right now, I do not see any teacher in competition with another teacher. This is one thing I'm really worried about with incentive plans, because I think that one of the strengths of instruction in a school is when teams of teachers are in professional learning communities and assisting each other. With this plan, every core teacher that's being tested by the STAR test in the school could all earn this bonus. They're not there's not just a set amount of money and they're all fighting for that little pot of money. So they could all get it. The other thing is, we all know that there are some campuses that really have much more challenging instructional situations than other schools. And this plan has in it a reward for people who are at high needs campuses and in areas where there's a critical shortage, so that we're having trouble with finding teachers there. So I think those are the positives. However, also in the last week, when we were thinking about things, I heard someone from Dallas ISD share experiences where he said that there was rampant cheating with teachers needing good scores for their schools so that they could get their bonus. I don't know whether that's true or not. You know, this is somebody's observation. When I proctored tests, when I was a teacher, they put the fear of God in you that they're going to take your certificate if you blink wrong, you know. if you haven't covered something that could be an answer on the wall, you know, the way you answer student questions is so critical. I mean, they really scared us in the training that, you know, we were going to just do it by the book. And so I just can't imagine masses of people in a school cheating so that their school would look like they got an A when they're cheating their way to an A. We don't want to do that. Amen to that. And I just want to be vigilant that somebody's not so desperate for an extra $3,000 that they're going to compromise their principles and their certificate and their future in education. So just with that said, I'm just saying that I think this is a very good first iteration at trying to target achievement that we want to happen.
Sorry.
That sounds like my alarm. That's why I wanted. I thought it might be mine.
My medicine. That's what that is.
All right.
Any other discussion? I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. McKeithen.
So,
There's
did
another-
that cover both?
No, it did not. I'd like
Okay.
to bring, nope, I got another motion here. What I do with it? I'd also like to move that the Board of Trustees approve implementation of the Principal Incentive Compensation Plan for the 2018-2019 school year. Limit payments under the plan to only those eligible principals who are in good standing, and authorize the superintendent or designee to define the criteria for determining whether an employee is in good standing for purposes of the plan.
Second.
I just changed that one.
Okay. It has been moved by Justine Durant, second by Donald Davis, that the Board of Trustees approve implementation of the Principals Incentive Compensation Plan for the 2018 to 2019 school year. Limit payments under the plan to only those eligible employees who are in good standing, and authorize the superintendent or designee to define the criteria for determining whether an employee is in good standings for purpose of the plan. Is there any discussion?
Give second.
It was second by Don.
I just would like to say that it starts at the top. And I really think that this is a good way to incentivize our principals. And I even like to see that we had 12 that would have met it this year, and hope to see that number grow.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excited about that.
Okay, I hope we will have some happy teachers and principals. Get this information.
Get what you pay for.
We're looking forward to, again, Mr. McKeithen, some A ratings.
Yes, ma'am.
A grades, okay. Our next item is the public hearing for the instructional materials adoption. At this time, I'd like to recognize our Assistant Superintendent and Curriculum of Instruction, Ms. Bradford.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much, President Newhouse, Dr. Watson, and members of the board. As we discussed at our work session Thursday, we are here tonight to follow up on Proclamation 2019, which is our proclamation that helps us to adopt instructional materials. Specifically this year, we are looking at English, language arts and readings, kindergarten through 8th grade, spelling grades 1 through 6, English and Spanish. Also, we have handwriting, which is up for adoption, and we're going to talk about that as well. In Spanish language arts and reading, kindergarten through grade 6, and our English language learners, language arts, grades 7 and 8, and personal financial literacy. As we discussed the other night, we were looking at Pearson adoption for our English language arts and reading, grades kindergarten through 8 in English and Spanish. And we're also looking at that Goodhart-Wilcox for our personal financial literacy. As we talked, we mentioned handwriting, and it is embedded within the Pearson, but we also have a team who's looking at a supplemental adoption for that. So tonight we're going to bring forth the recommendation for the English language arts and reading, kindergarten through grade 8, the spelling, the Spanish language arts and reading, kindergarten through grade 6, and our English language learners, language arts supports for grades 7 and 8, and personal financial literacy. So all of our resources do follow the state process and timeline. We've also has adopted that to our own district process and timeline with this culminating event tonight. I do want to remind everyone that we do have an adoption committee that's made up of teachers from across the district, as well as our CNI team, of course, distribution services, a great team under Mark Miranda. We have Kevin Johnson, who's with us tonight, who helped set up all the materials out in the hallway. Hope you've had a chance to look at those. They are still out there and available. Of course, we are looking at both the print and the digital resources. And also the curriculum and instruction team was part of the process as well. We did look at the materials to make sure they were on the state list, that they met 100% of the TEKS. So the items that we are recommending do meet both our vision for literacy in Spring ISD, also the vetting of the committee to make sure it really matched what they see as far as their student needs, making sure it's aligned with all of our state standards, our new TEKS, which are coming out this fall. So it's a great time for us to adopt new materials because we also have new kindergarten through 8th grade TEKS in literacy, English, and Spanish language arts. So we're excited for that. It also helps us build that vertical alignment from kindergarten through grade 8. We did have the committees look at the resources, grade level committees, also elementary and secondary, and we really wanted it to have a holistic K through 8 adoption so that both our teachers who may transfer from school to school, but also our students who also transfer sometimes from school to school, but also that transition from elementary to middle school is very smooth and seamless. We know that literacy is one of our priority areas, so we really did take this adoption very seriously, and we just look forward to sharing more of the updates with you all as these materials come in. We do want to go ahead and get started ordering. Dr. Hinojosa has made me promise in blood that schools will have everything they need well before the start of the school year, but by us going ahead and moving forward tonight, that gives us enough time for professional learning, for our teachers to really become very comfortable with these resources. It does connect very well with our theory of action that we do believe in having that aligned curriculum, and these resources really help us to meet that objective of our district and also our school board. So with that being said, we definitely will entertain any questions that you all have additional from Thursday or today.
I have spent some time looking at the materials and very, very impressed because I've, read books with my children and grandchildren for many years, even though I don't have children's literacy background. I was fascinated with some of the workbooks. Now, do you have to buy the workbooks, or can you print them off of the net, or how do you do that?
Well, they give us lots of different options, so we can purchase them digitally, or we can purchase individual workbooks for students or class sets of books of those workbooks. So after tonight, that's when our committee and also our leadership team will come together with, again, teachers and principals to look at what each classroom needs. So it's available both ways.
And in a perfect world, they'd all have some kind of device where they could do it on and not print paper, but I know. The other thing is, I was struck with how much integration there was, especially with social studies. There was a lot of mapping activities and historical accounts, and I just was very impressed with that. The other thing, I ran into in middle school a lesson on Greek roots of words, and I listed quite a few terms that I'm very familiar with in biology, and I know 10th graders often don't know those words. So I was very impressed that it was in middle school. So anyway, this non-children's literature person was very impressed.
Thank you. I also had a chance to browse through each one of the grade levels, and I was impressed with the teacher's edition work that they had for each grade level, how thorough the teacher's edition was, giving teachers step by step each unit of what they needed to cover. And as Dr. Jensen mentioned, it paired it with the student handbook that was right there with it as well, and how they went together. So I kind of thought back, Dr. Jensen, and said, boy, if I had a teacher's edition like this.
Well, President Faust, you remind me, the teacher's edition had full group, small group, and the individual, and everything the teacher should do with each
group. Yes, it did. It was very thorough. So, and it went from K all the way through 5th grade is what I noticed.
Yes.
And I said, this is nice. This will be nice for them to have. Easy to use,
well,
too.
We're very excited. They're excited, and they're really looking forward to it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, Dr. Hill, do we have anyone registered to speak on this agenda item under public hearing?
No, Madam President, we do not.
Okay. Thank you. As there are no identified speakers, let us continue with tonight's agenda. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the Instructional Adoption Committee recommendations for Proclamation 2019 instructional material for the following areas: English language arts and reading, Spanish language arts and reading, spelling, English learner language arts, and personal financial literacy.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the Instructional Adoption Committee recommendations for Proclamation 2019 instructional materials for the following areas: English language arts and reading, Spanish language arts and reading, spelling, English learners language arts, and personal financial literacy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Deborah Jensen and seconded by Justine Durant that the Board of Trustees approve the Instructional Adoption Committee recommendations for Proclamation 2019 instructional materials for the following areas: English language arts and reading, Spanish language arts and reading, spelling, English learners language arts, and personal financial literacy. Is there any other discussion?
I just want to thank the people that served on that committee. I served on a textbook adoption committee in my prior life, and it is hard work after hours reviewing those materials, and I wanted to thank the folks that did that for our students.
Are they here this evening?
They're at home creating their lessons and grading papers.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Bradford. Our next item is the consent agenda. I will now entertain a motion to approve and adopt all of the items listed on the consent agenda.
Madam President, I move the Board of Trustees approve and adopt all the items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Jana Gonzalez, seconded by Justine Durant, that the Board of Trustees approve and adopt all of the items listed on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. Next is the public participation portion of our meeting. Chief Hill, do we have anyone registered to speak under the public participation?
Yes, Madam President, we do. We have Jeff Conti of 23118 Westgate Village Lane, 77373, and he will be speaking in regards to school naming. Before I have Mr. Conti come forward, I would like to just read for us aloud what the guidelines are for your conversation this evening. The board invites interested citizens to address the board on any subject that they desire other than allegations concerning the character or capability of any board member, staff member, citizen, or student of the district. The board provides an opportunity on the agenda for citizens to address the board, and we welcome your participation. The board will listen and will not interrupt unless the person addressing the board infringes on the guidelines as stated previously or exceeds the time limit authorized for the presentation. In this case, you will have 3 minutes to present, and Mr. Sheffer, our board director, will keep time, which will be displayed on the monitors. According to law, the board may not take any action on any item that is not on the agenda. The board will not debate nor respond to any question during the meeting in order to research the question thoroughly before replying. The board will seriously consider the matter brought to its attention and respond appropriately. Also, according to law, it is a criminal offense for any person to obstruct, prevent, interfere with, or disrupt a lawfully called meeting through physical action or verbal utterance. Citizens are requested to supplement any oral address to the board with a written summary of their presentation and any recommendations they may wish to suggest. We thank you for your concern regarding our school district, and we will hear from you now. Mr. Conti.
Good evening. First, just want to say thank you for taking a few minutes to hear me out tonight, and also thank you for your services that you provide for us in the Spring community. It's very valuable to me, and I personally appreciate that. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm Jeff Conti. I've been in the district for about 14 years when I moved into that home there in the Villages of Northgate Crossing. And I just wanted to give some feedback on the naming of the new middle school that I believe middle school number 8, which has been designated as Springwood Village Middle School. The feedback in the community it has not been very positive, and I guess I'm somewhat representing a collection of voices because of the clash, I guess, that name has. Springwoods Village is not contiguous to where we are in Northgate, a district or a community that's been there for almost 30 years now. And it just doesn't fit. In some people's opinions, it's almost like calling it the Woodlands Middle School or something like that. It just doesn't fit in its area just because it is Northgate with the Villages of Northgate Crossing, the park at Northgate Crossing Municipal Utility Districts, and Springwoods Village is across an I-45. It's nothing against that. It's just strange that in an area that's been for tens of years, 10 to 20 years, designated as Northgate, we have this thing of a community that was just built across from 45. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, for your consideration, and that's all I'm here to do. And again, just want to thank you. It's been very interesting sitting here and watching the meeting be conducted, and maybe I come to some more just to see what's going on. But again, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you for coming forth and speaking. The board will now recess this open session and convene in a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.071, for the purpose of a private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized. Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.072, for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.074, for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. And Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.076, for the purpose of considering the deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices or a security audit. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in the closed meeting will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. The time is now 9:18 p.m. Now reconvene and resume the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Time is now 10:20 p.m. We will address the items discussed during closed session. Are there any motions?
Madam President, I move the board approve the resolution and release agreement as presented in closed session in the matter styled Spring ISD versus Robert Blaine, docket number 034-LH-12-2018.
Second.
It has been moved by Jana Gonzalez, second by Justine Durant, that the board approve the resolution and release agreement as presented in closed session in the matter styled Spring ISD versus Robert Blaine, docket number 034-LH-12-2018. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Are there any other motions?
Madam President, I move that the board approve the resolution and release agreement as presented in closed session in the matter styled Spring ISD versus Joel Cruz, docket number 052-LH-01-2019.
Second.
It's been moved by Deborah Jensen and second by Winfred Adams that the board approve the resolution and release agreement as presented in closed session in the manner styled Spring ISD versus Joel Cruz, docket number 052-LH-01-2019. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Are there any other motions?
Madam President, I move that the board accept the grant funds in the amount of $45,000 as presented by the Spring Education Foundation.
Second.
It's been moved by Winfred Adams Jr. and second by Don Davis that the board accept the grant funds in the amount of $45,000 as presented by the Spring ISD Education Foundation. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Are there any other motions? Since there are no other motions, no other items on tonight's agenda, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Been moved by Jana Gonzalez, second by Chris Bell, that the Board of Trustees adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. There's no other business. This meeting is officially adjourned at 10:24 p.m.